بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Whereas the life of this world is but an illusion. Another verse. The life of this world is no more than an illusion. صدق الله العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Brother Jamal was talking about the matrix and illusion, and we didn't coordinate this. But subhanAllah, it seemed to work out well. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So today's lecture, is going to be on the illusion of this life. The illusion of this life. And we need to understand how serious that claim is. You know, a lot of us always laugh at the idea, do we exist, do we not exist? And obviously we exist. And I'm not going into that huge thing. But it's a debate that's been had within ancient philosophers as well as modern philosophers predating the Greeks. The reality of existence. And what's real and what's illusionary. And here the Quran, I start off with these two verses, where the life of this world is but an illusion. So, today's topic is going to be on this illusion that's created in this life. And a lot of times, religion is accused of being a tool for brainwash. Am I correct? It's a mechanism used to brainwash. Am I going to say that's not true? No, I'm going to say it's very true. Religion in many instances is used as a tool to brainwash. But I'll argue, when religion is used as a tool to brainwash, it's always done for economic interests. You see the point I'm trying to make here? So when religion is used as a tool to brainwash others, the purpose behind that brainwash is always money. Is always economics. Generally, it's always capitalism. So today's lecture is going to be on the biggest and largest form of brainwash, which is what? Consumerism. Consumerism spills over into all cultures, into all religions, into all creeds, into all ages, into all people. You could be religious, but you could be heavily brainwashed by consumerism. You could be non-religious, heavily brainwashed by this issue of brainwash exists higher in marketers. And when I say consumers, look, it's consumption. We're consumers. We're not creators, unfortunately. We're not originators. We just consume. We're takers. We just eat. But who creates? Who originates? Who makes? No, consumers. It's a grade below. And when we consume, what do we consume? I don't mean just clothes. When I say diet, I don't mean just diet of food. What we eat, what we watch, what we look at, what we wear, the conversations we engage with, the movies we the sports we obsess over. All these are heavy forms of consumerism, and all of these heavily brainwash us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
And I can give examples, and I can throw money, and I can throw stats, how much they study psychology, and how much marketers pour into this, and in order to manufacture a reaction and a consumption on part of the consumer base. Consumer, the word is very telling. Consumer, you know? And I was at my sister's place, and my niece, I don't like shows. I don't like always TV in the back and music. When I go there, I'll take this. You know, always, if you have sisters or brothers or anyone with kids, there's always kids shows in the background. You go anywhere, they have the kids shows in the background. This is also very dangerous. This is also a form of consumption. So they took it off, and my niece begins to cry, as any child would, as every child would. Not only any. Why? Is that a coincidence? That reaction of her throwing a tantrum and crying is engineered, is manufactured. There's a billion, if not trillion-dollar industry geared towards this this reaction from this child, because she is being brainwashed. She wants that Kit Kat bar. She's gonna react that way in the supermarket, crying and a tantrum and. She won't do that for an apple. She won't do that for a banana. Why for chocolate? Why for salts? Why for fats? And this doesn't only end at young ages, even in religious circles. For example, you give your daughters Barbies, you give your sons, think about this, guns. You give a 5-year-old boy a water gun. You think you don't think these have repercussions? What is the lesson we're teaching a 5-year-old boy when you're giving him a water gun to shoot? Or a PlayStation? Or, I'm not saying not play PlayStation, I'm not saying, but I'm just trying to make us aware of the dangers of consumerism. And it starts at a very, very, very early age, and it only develops as we get older in life. Because now we only value each other on our buying power. You're a good friend because you make X amount. He's a good husband, why? Because he brought me this. He's a good father, why? Because I bought my daughter a $1,000 Canada Goose jacket. So my value as a father, as a husband, as a friend is based on my buying power as a consumer. I'm not saying money is not important, but I'm saying it's not the essence of who I am as a man. We have to take care of ourselves and we have to take care of our own, no problem. But am I a fool? I'll retract that back. I'll give you an example. Let's say someone buys a $30 winter jacket from a thrift store. He'll be considered cheap instead of smart, because you went and bought the same jacket for $1,000 at the other store, but he looks like as if he's a cheap person, where the other person looks like he's smart. Why? Because you were brainwashed into believing there's $1,000 value in this winter jacket that your child's gonna grow out of within next season, and you're the smart one and you're the generous one. No, you're just tricked. That's it. You're a pawn. You bought into it. You're conned. With all due respect, sometimes I feel like we're just hacks and chumps. Manipulated, brainwashed, to believing there's this kind of value in this hyper level of consumerism and capitalism. And I wish it ends with our buying power. It goes further. I can be approved for this much credit. I can be approved for this line of credit. I can be approved for this mortgage. So the more money I make, I also brag how much credit am I in turn worth. Think about how backward and convoluted that is. We also brag about the level of credit we're worth, which is really telling also. And if you don't have a lot of credit, well, it's because you don't have a lot of money. And funny enough, you're the one who really needs the credit. You see how it works counterintuitively? And to further prove this point, I'll take you back to 9/11. So the United States was attacked, and we'll go with the CNN narrative that Osama bin Laden and his boys attacked the tower with the box cutters. And they orchestrated this very theatrical, act of terrorism. The largest act of terrorism in the United States is America, with the highest level of casualties and killings and murder of a civilian population. And he is the leader of the free world and the free nation and democracy and everything else. So he's supposed to console his population and console his country. And when addressing the attacks of 9/11, what do you think he said? Just to show you how entrenched we are in this war. He replies, and just so I don't paraphrase him correctly, I encourage you to go shopping more. The terrorists don't want us to shop. So he's pretty much saying, if we don't shop, the terrorists win. It's a bit comical. But this is the president of the world's most powerful nation. After 3,000 people died, if we don't shop, pretty much the terrorists win. He continues. Go down to Disney World in Florida. It could seem as a bit comical, but there's a huge, because who's going to finance the army? Who's going finance all their bases all over the world, and the control they have and the domination they could, if not through consumerism and through finance, which I don't want to delve too deeply into, but it's something to worth thinking about very quickly right now. Not go to the church, not go to your families, not go to your communities. I'm having a horrible, horrible day. I have to go splurge and buy $500 worth of stuff I don't need. So it's not that far-fetched. Go shopping. Because how many of us here, or how many of us know others who, when having a difficult day, I need to go buy stuff. As if it's not in the remembrance of Allah brings tranquility to the hearts. It's in the remembrance of my visa at, I don't know, give me Renfrew or Nordstrom shopping center, that there's sukoon and there's peace and tranquility in the hearts now. So it's not, don't laugh at Donald Trump if you yourself, to console ourselves, oh, I have to eat a big piece of cake to feel better. I have to buy a $500 nothingness to feel better, or $1,000, no, even more. This is the form. This is the danger in this kind of reaction to any calamities we might face. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So I was making the argument that consumer is the highest form of brainwash and manipulation, right? So, and now I have to ask, and I brought this point before, how much of you is engineering? How much of you is manufacturing? When I say you, I mean myself. Trust me, I try to make myself very aware of this issue. When I say I want something, why do I want it? I ask myself these questions. So how much of us is manufactured? How much of us is engineered? How much of us is manipulated and controlled? How much of our desires, how much of our wants, how much of our needs, how much of our dislikes, how much of our hates, how much of what almost makes us as an essence, as a human, is only designed and not genuinely and organically yours? How much debt that we've put ourselves under is for stuff that if you actually wanted it, I almost say alhamdulillah. But the issue is sometimes we put ourselves in debt for things we don't even actually want, but we're told to want. And I'll tell you why I'm coming to this issue. With all due respect to our shuyukh, and I'm not disagreeing with them, sheikhs are always on it. Credit card fraud is haram. We understand. Insurance fraud is haram. I understand. These are billion-dollar organizations, and they don't even have their financial entities. It's not like it's like Abu Ali, in his pocket. I'm not justifying whatsoever. Please don't understand me that way, and so it's haram. I understand it's haram. But I think we need to refocus the discussion. Not to it's haram to do insurance fraud. Not that it's haram to do credit card fraud. We understand it's haram. But we need to refocus the discussion is how we can protect ourselves from being defrauded and enslaved and used and manipulated from these huge financial institutions. You see the difference? I understand that. But now we need to learn, we need to understand, we need to study economics. How much of our day is spent in transactions? Whether it's your work day, after work you're buying, you're picking up, the gas you're filling. How much of our time is spent in just transactions? A vast majority of our day. And this is what we need to focus on. We need to educate ourselves on the economy, on economics, on these large financial institutions, and how they are used as means to control us, to manipulate us, and in turn to dominate us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Just the idea of a mortgage. It's derived from the French word. I'm not French, so forgive me if I pronounce it wrong. But the word mortgage, its derivative is French. It's derived from a French word. Mort means death. And gage means pledge. It's a death pledge. The same way consumer is very telling, mortgage is very telling. I'm not telling people to not buy a home. Before we say, oh, look at this guy, he's asking us to live in a tent. I'm not asking. I'm just saying we need to be aware. We need to be aware of these plots and these traps and these snares used to take advantage of us. We don't need to worry about being brainwashed. The sports. I'm not saying, I need people to understand. I'm not saying don't watch sports. But sports is a huge mind control. A huge form of distraction. A huge form of manipulation. I have my roommate, he loves watching the NFL. When I watch the commercials are incredible. I can see how someone can easily be pulled in and attracted to that. And in turn distracted from what matters. Which is life. Which is you. Which is akhirah. Which is death. Which is politics. Which is things that affect us. Which is our family and our children. We're so distracted. We're victims of busyness. Because of this consumerism. No longer time for each other. Not only do we have no time for family and our children and our friends, we don't even have time for ourselves. We're victims of busyness. Victims of busyness. My friend, he has a kid. Before he goes to bed, he prepares his cup of coffee to save the 30 seconds because he has to run here and then run there. And I understand this is the world we live in. I'm just saying we need to be aware of these ideas in order to at least give ourselves a chance to be a bit genuine, a bit organic, a bit true and a bit real. Not fake. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Jean-Jacques Rousseau, French again, I don't know what's going on with my French today, but he says in his book, The Social Contract, he says it so beautifully. He says, man is born free, but in everywhere he is in chains. How true is it? I can give you example. I'm going to continue. Even what's more genuine than anger? Anger is an organic sensation that we should all feel, right? It's an organic sensation. This should be the easiest way. We can fake being in love. We can fake being nice. I have fake conversations all day at work. Not one word is fake, just I don't know what they talk to me about. Okay? But anger is hard to fake. Anger is genuine. It's a genuine, organic feeling. Even our anger here is fake. Why? Because I'm having a discussion with a guy at the gym. And I'm discussing Christmas or something along these lines. So he kind of feels like he wants to join my team, kind of like, oh yeah, like, you know, whatever, fight the system kind of thing, whatever. And so he's like, yeah, you know, this is the amount of anger he can sum it up. He says, man, these liberals, they're really like bringing up our taxes. They're bringing up the tax deficit. The debt, what's the debt? What's the term? Bringing up the debt, the provincial debt. That's what he was angry about. So when he wanted to show anger against the liberals for bringing up the provincial debt. Baba, what about your personal debt? Why aren't you angry about your credit line, your line of credit debt, your car debt, your home debt, your phone debt? But this didn't even come to mind. He wanted to show anger. His anger was over, what was he upset over? The provincial. They make the money, they print the money, and he's worried about them. He's not worried about his loans, his credit card debt, his mortgage debt, his car debt. You know, we're a material society without owning any material, subhanAllah. This is the beauty of it. At least Umar ibn Sa'ad, he wanted Dre. First of all, how many of us have been offered Dre to know what if we do what he did? We make fun, we say, oh look at La'natullah, you know, we curse him. For $1,000 or $100, some of us might do what he did. Every other day we cheat and we lie, maybe for $100 or $1,000. And we talk about Umar. At least he got a whole province promised to him. So it's easy for us to curse, but which one of us here has been offered leadership like this or a province like this, right? Here, we're not given this. You're given the American dream. The word dream is very telling. The thing is, philology is the study of words. Words are very telling. American dream. You own your home, it's an illusion. It's all mortgage. You pay double the cost in interest, and every 5 years you refinance it because you have to renovate the basement. And the wife wants the new cabinets and this and this and this, all the same. You know what I mean? You own your car? Every car out there in this parking lot is either leased or financed. My phone is $1,000. You can't even buy a phone anymore. You have to pay Rogers every month, $20, whatever, to eat away at the cost of the phone. Because phones are $1,200, $1,500, $60. Even a phone. So materialism with no material. It's so beautifully, it's masterful. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Islam is very clear. How much it warns us about debt. In Dua Iftitah, the Imam asks us, he says, "Oh Allah, remove us from our debt." The Quran is replete, I don't want to go into the verses, replete with how interest is haram. I'm not saying it's haram for us to take interest. But there's a reason why it's haram to charge interest. The reason why the Imams always do du'as to protect us from debt, to get us out of debt, because it's a form of enslavement. Someone could give you $7 to remind you about it next day. Remember I got you your Uber for $7? Go to Allah. He gives and He doesn't remind you of $7 He gave you. Much less a bank, much less any financial institution. And the point of brainwash, we're here, we're sitting amongst Muslims, and there's many terms I could mention that we can't even speak about openly in this open and free society. I'm going to ask you to use your imagination. There's certain groups that are untouchable, above criticism. But this is a free society, but I can't mention them here. Even though most likely we're in agreement as to certain groups. Like for example, let's say homosexuality. It's an untouchable group. Good luck keeping your job or your position or having a public office. Even if you're a conservative leader, you can't voice your opinion on marriage. They're an untouchable group. They're more sensitive than other groups that are considered highly sensitive. So we have our opinions on that. Are they manufactured? Are they engineered? Are they genuine? Or are they? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So I started off with the verses. The life of this world is an illusion. Meaning it's all fake. It's not real. It's not eternal. And we put ourselves in huge debt to build the Jannah on earth with us as slaves in it. We want to make this better and that better and buy this. As if we're going to make Jannah here. As if we're going to make Jannah here. But in reality, we're enslaving ourselves to this fake Jannah we're building here. And that's why Imam Ali says, we need to wake up. We need to wake up. I need to wake up. Imam Ali comes in beautifully and says, people are asleep. People are asleep. Once they die, they wake up. Then they know haqq, then they know truth. The Matrix, brother, he was talking about. People are asleep. When they die, they wake up. You know the show Walking Dead? They tell you it to your face. You guys are walking dead. All of us, we're zombies. Why asleep? Why walking dead? Because when you're dead or you're asleep, there's no consciousness. There's no mindfulness. There's no wakefulness. Consumer. We eat like those zombies on The Walking Dead. It's not a human. A thought. A freedom. The Imam continues. The ignorant person is dead even when alive. Here the criteria to live is to be wise, not ignorant. The ignorant person is dead even when alive. The Imam continues. The scholar is a living person among the dead, and the scholar is alive when he is dead. Look, what's the criteria to live? The criteria for living is what? Is knowledge. How could we protect ourselves from these snares and these traps of these huge finances? When Imam Khomeini, when he refers to a certain nation, Ash-Shaytan al-Akbar, you think that's done emotionally? And this certain nation uses its huge financial tentacles to control the world, and it's too elaborate. We can't say too much. But they use finances to have domination over the entirety of the world, and that's why they're the superpower. Through finance. Consumerism. That's why in India, people don't wear short kameez. Now they wear jeans. It's called the jean revolution. You think that's a joke? They're importing a culture. They're removing their culture and taking it on another. Consumerism. Sacrificing what is theirs, what is them, what is real. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So, this is the serious question. This is a serious question. How much of our tashayyu' is brainwashed? I ask myself this all the time. What I believe, is it genuine and is it true? Or just because my parents? And if we don't base our tashayyu' on knowledge, it could be easily brainwashed, and there's no difference between us and anybody else. We have to really ask ourselves, my desires, my wants, my needs, my hates, my passions, and most importantly, my tashayyu', are they mine? And we have 5 minutes. I'm not going to go into solutions as to how we can combat this. I'll say very quickly though. You know what you need to do? You need to be real. You need to be genuine. You need to be honest. You need to be sincere. Don't be a conformist, copying others who are copying others. Rather be yourself. Be brave and be yourself. Nobody can be you as well as you in the world. There's a lot of aerospace engineers. Sayyid Taha is not the best, I can promise you. There's a lot of lawyers. This brother is not the best. Because there's always lawyers better. There's always somebody stronger. There's always somebody. You know what you can do, what could Sayyid Taha can do that nobody can do better than him? He can be Sayyid Taha. Nobody in this world can be that better than him, yet will sacrifice that in order to be like others who are trying to be like others. See the danger there? The greatest thing you can offer this world and offer yourself is being original. Being real, being sincere, being genuine. I keep repeating it because it's real, and you have to be brave to be that. When I see people on the street dressed, all black with makeup, like the punks, they call them, like they listen to punk music, emos. A part of me admires them because you gotta be brave to dress like that and not fit the conformity of society. I respect their bravery. And I admire it. Because they're being genuine. They're being real to whatever they think they are. And when you are like that, you become like Imam Ali. Look at the sincerity. I'm going to read 2 more hadiths. Please forgive me, guys. It's okay. So, Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. We always hear the hadiths. When he would go towards wudu, I spent a lot of time talking, but now I want to go to Ahlul Bayt. Let's learn from Ahlul Bayt. Imam Ali, he goes towards wudu, he's shivering, he's shaking. When he's in salah, and he's in prayer, and he's on the threshold of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's crying. How? Why? How and why? And what does this relate? Because he's far removed from the delusion of this world, and he swims in the ocean of reality. He knows haqq, he knows truth. There's many forms of sabr. There's having patience from a calamity, there's having patience from doing the wajib, and there's having patience from staying away from haram. And then there's also patience fillah, the one who goes towards Allah. You're not still knocking on Allah's door, knocking, to answer his hajat, to answer your hajat, to be in his presence, to sit in the company of Allah. And then there's the one who's patient who has sabr ma'allah, the one who Allah has answered and has entered in within his realm. But to stay in this realm and not to be removed from this realm like Iblis requires a certain level of patience. Like Adam requires a certain level of patience. And then there's the patience sabr an Allah, the one who leaves Allah, which is the highest form of sabr. Why? Because Imam Ali, when he has to leave the presence of Allah and go back to people, you think that's easy? How much of us are in prayer? How much of us, for example, you want to do a dua, your guests come, your brother come. You have to leave the company of Allah. And you have to go to enter your worldly affairs. This kind of patience for a person like Rasulullah, when he sat in the cave of Hira, he loved it. When Imam Musa al-Qadim sat in the prisons, he said to Allah, thank you Allah, I've always asked for a reason. I've always asked you to let me worship you alone. You've granted me my hajjah. For these people, for this people being separated from Allah to serving people is a calamity for them. And this is not a calamity, sorry. This is what they do. But this distance from Allah is difficult for them. Rather than sitting with Allah in contemplation of Allah. So a person that has a ilm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Imam Ali, when he goes to salah, not only when he goes to salah, when he goes to a tailor, his abaya, on the position that he existed in this world, his abaya was torn. He comes and he says, I have patched this shirt of mine so much that I am now ashamed of taking it to the tailor. Look what the Amir is saying. The Amir has patched the shirt so many times that he's showing humility not in front of a king, not in front of a leader, not in front of his father, not in front of Allah. He shows this humility in front of a tailor. This colossal, iconic, grand, magnanimous character. In front of a tailor, he shows humility because he sees reality. So in front of a tailor who just does the simple service of sewing his shirt, he's shy before him. What happens to the Amir when he goes to Salah recognizing Allah is before him? That kind of recognition of Haqq, away from the illusions and delusions. You see? This is what happens when somebody is real and sincere and they recognize what matters in this world. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Go into Karbala. 2 minutes. Go into Karbala. Imam Hussein looks at those people who have bought into the delusions of this world. Right? Why else would they kill the Imam? They want to satisfy their desires, their illusions. The Imam tells them, if you do not believe in religion and do not fear in the hereafter, then at least be free men in dunyakum. At least be free men in your present life. The Imam is saying, see, you don't believe in religion. You don't believe in the hereafter. At least be free. Don't buy into this slavish realities. Don't be tricked. So when we are tricked by the delusions of this world, we have to take caution. We have to be very precautious. And that's why when he stands on Karbala, and Sayyid al-Zahra, she finds out what's going to happen to her son, she tells Rasulullah, okay. She says, Baba, if the faith needs the supreme sacrifice, I accept it. If my son Hussein needs to be killed, I accept. But you must first get the consent of Hussein. You must first get the consent of the Imam. So the Prophet goes towards the Imam and he says, are you ready to offer your extreme sacrifice that has been ordained by Allah for you? Are you ready to make this sacrifice? Look at these persons that recognize reality, what they'll come and say. The Imam responds, look who he says this to, Rasulullah. The one who has faced more calamities than any prophet. Look how he answers him. O grandfather, when on the sands of Karbala, the weapon of the assassin will be at my throat, there shall be the words of shukr, thankfulness for Allah on my tongue. You yourself will hear about it and witness the sabr and the forbearance of Hussein on that day. The Imam Hussein is telling the Prophet, you yourself will witness my patience on that day. He's not saying the way we show off. I have a bigger house, I have a bigger car, I have a bigger job. They do competition of who has more sabr. He tells Rasulullah, you will bear patience. You will witness the patience I show on that day. And that's why a man like this, one last hadith, forgive me brothers, one last hadith and I'm done. That's why a man like this, who's real and generous in every aspect, even when he gives, he's real. There's a man, he has a debt that needs to be paid. He says, He says, take me to the house, the most generous house. Take me to, obviously they send him to the house of Abu Abdullah. With his enemies, he's generous. What does he do with the stranger? What does he do with his Shi'as if with the enemies? He's generous. This person, he comes to the house of Abu Abdullah. And we come to know that's why he's Rahmatullah al-Wasi'. The wide expanse of Allah's mercy. Because he's so generous even with his killers. What does he do for his lovers? You have to what does he do for his lovers? What do you think he will do for us on Yawm al-Qiyamah when he looks at us and says, you guys sat here and you commemorated my passing of Ali Akbar? Do you know what position we will hold with Abu Abdullah on that day? If with his enemies, they think they might get shafa'ah from him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will protect them from him. Because it's even said that He might give them shafa'ah that day. Yeah. Amen. So, this man goes to the door of Abu Abdullah and he says he has a debt that needs to be paid. Abu Abdullah goes and he gives him 4,000 dinars. He just cracks the door slightly open. The man looks at him and says, you give me such a large amount of money, but you do not open the door completely. Because the Imam is real, he's genuine, he's sincere. He doesn't do it for any other reason. He says, you open the door a little bit and you give me the money. Why? The Imam says, so you may not feel ashamed looking at me. Look at the way he gives. Not to remind you. He doesn't even want to know who you are. So you do not feel ashamed of looking at me when I hand you that money. At this moment, the Arab man begins to cry and weep. He says, my weeping, the Imam asks him, why are you weeping? Did you need more money? This is all that I had to offer you. Here the Imam, the person at the door says, my weeping is because of the thought. Just the thought. As to how such a generous hand will ever be buried beneath the dust. Just the thought of a hand, as generous of the hand of Abu Abdullah being buried was too much for him to bear. He begins to cry. Little does he know that hand will be manipulated, that hand will be cut, that fingers will be cut off, and that body will not even have the privilege of being buried for 3 days. Little does he know this. And that's why that man then inscribes a piece of poetry that's written on the tomb of Abu Abdullah, and he comes and he says, oh dear Hussein, one who comes to you is never disappointed. Your door is always open for anyone who approaches your house. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us be brave enough to be real, to be genuine and sincere. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be of His righteous lovers, the servants of, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to be Ibad al-Salihin, the Habba of Muhammad wa al-Muhammad, the Shi'as of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and the Muntadhireen of Imam Sahibi wa Asri wa Zaman. Sallu ala Muhammad wa al-Muhammad.